game is just played. Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40! Can't wait! Let's go!
Good morning and welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show here on Sports Empire Network. So happy that you're able to make us part of your morning routine, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube, or live on Roku TV. I am Chris, and of course, that over there is Mo. Mo, how are you this morning, sir?
Doing well on a football Thursday.
Mo, let's start with this. Fans often wonder why NFL players, when it comes to contract negotiations, come off as greedy. Why they're always looking to get the bag, why they're always looking to secure their own future. And I think what we're seeing this morning, Mo, is an example of that when it comes to one Russell Wilson. You don't know what an NFL team is going to do in the future. So you need to make sure that as a player, you are getting everything that you can in the moment to best set yourself up, because the Russell Wilson situation is showing that even the big contract, Mo, even the big money isn't always a sure thing. For those of you who are not aware with the Russell Wilson situation in Denver, apparently Russell Wilson was approached after the Denver Broncos upset the Kansas City Chiefs. He was asked to rework some of the clauses within his contract, specifically his injury clause and the guaranteed money that was associated with it. He balked at that request. It is reported that he thought that was somewhat shocking that they were asking him to do that. He was then apparently threatened by the Denver Broncos organization and told that he would potentially be benched from that point on moving forward. Obviously, that was not the case. What did happen, though, is once they were more or less eliminated from playoff contention, which was after their loss this past week against don't know who they played, but they lost that game. After that, the Patriots? Yeah, I think it was the Patriots. After they lose that game, Mo, we find out that he is going to be benched, which when it came out that was going to happen, it was presented more or less as a measure to save money. The Broncos wanted financial flexibility heading into the offseason. Benching him for the last 2 games was going to free up close to $40 million of that financial flexibility. But then that escalated even more quickly. And now it is all but confirmed that come March, he is no longer going to be a Denver Bronco. And of course, when Sean Payton was asked about this, he gave the "we needed a spark" comment, Mo. We needed a spark. That's why we're starting the backup. There's many different ways to look at this. Let's start here. If you look statistically at what Russell Wilson is doing this season, no, he's not the Russ that he was 3 or 4 years ago. I'm not going to sit here and say that. I'll say at best, he's maybe 85% of the quarterback that you saw in Seattle. And that's at his best. And we haven't seen him at his best for a lot of this season. You know, the last 5 or 6 games, sure, he's played a lot better. But I'd say overall, he's about 80% of what he was. But if you look at what he's accomplished within that system, he is an above-average quarterback statistically this season, Mo. 26 touchdowns. He has less than 10 interceptions. He only has just over 3,000 yards passing, 65% completion percentage, a little lower than you want for your franchise quarterback. But I would argue right now there's about 10 teams in the league that would like to have that on their team. 26 touchdowns, 7 or 8 picks, 3,000 yards, 65% completion. Those are pretty above-average numbers in the NFL in 2023. And Mo, let's not pretend that he isn't dealing with an offensive situation in Denver that you and I have talked about all season is an absolute joke. And sure, he has shortcomings as a quarterback, but let's be honest, it doesn't help when he's constantly being called plays to throw the ball 3 yards past the line of scrimmage. It doesn't help when you're scheming plays for him that are designed for him not to lose the game, but also not to win you the game. And then, sure, the last 5 or 6 games, once or twice we saw an old Russ play, right? Once or twice we saw the old Russ magic, which let you know he still has it. And we've been asking the entire year, why haven't we seen more of it? Why has he gone off script a couple of times and things have looked good, but yet he comes back the next drive and it's back to 3 or 4 yard passes, screen passes, back-to-back running plays where the first one's for a loss of a yard. And then they said, well, let's try it again and we'll pick up 2 yards. So that's what he's facing this year. Oh, by the way, Mo, let's not forget what he faced last year when after you gave him the deal, after you sold the farm to get him, you said as an organization, Nat Hackett. That's the guy that's going to lead us to the future. That's the guy that's going to bring us to the promised land. So I look at this today, Mo, and I will acknowledge you didn't get the rust from 4 or 5 years ago, but you should have known you weren't going to get the rust from 4 or 5 years ago.
Agreed.
So tell me, Denver, what did you do to make it work? Because from what I can see, you hired a head coach that had no business being a head coach, and it was a debacle like we thought it was going to be. And then it looks like you brought in a future Hall of Fame head coach in Sean Payton that apparently never wanted Russell Wilson there in the first place.
Which is a given.
So, and nothing he did this season said to you, I want Russell Wilson as my quarterback. So what did you do to make this situation work? I wish that cutting Russell Wilson in March cost you the whole damn contract, because you put yourself in this spot when you traded for him a season and a half ago, a season and 3 quarters ago, and then you did nothing to make this work. Nat Hackett never should have been a head coach in this league. You knew when you hired Sean Payton that Russell Wilson wasn't going to be his guy. So best case scenario was they won 9 or 10 games this year, doing what they're doing right now with Sean Payton. And then they draft his replacement in the draft this upcoming year. And then he slowly starts to fade Russ out beginning next year. That was probably best case scenario, but it didn't go that way, because imagine this, Mo. When your head coach doesn't want the quarterback, it's bumpy. Isn't that wild?
Shocking.
Look at Tua Tagovailoa in Miami when he had a head coach that openly did not like him, did not want him as their quarterback. Crazy. The man struggled. Then you get a guy in there that likes Tua and that actually wants to build a system around what he can do. Oh, and it's the number 2 offense in the NFL. It's crazy how that works, Mo.
Funny how that works.
Mo, what do you make of the Denver Broncos situation? Because I don't know how Denver doesn't come out of this situation looking absolutely awful.
And they deserve to. This all starts with a familiar name, right? Aaron Rodgers. They wanted Aaron Rodgers. It's no secret Denver wanted Aaron Rodgers. Struck out on Aaron Rodgers, and they were sitting there with not a plan B. Plan B became, let's pursue Russell Wilson to get Russell Wilson. And they ended up overpaying vastly for Russell Wilson. And in getting Russell Wilson, like you said, they pair him with Hackett, a head coach who wasn't ready to be a head coach. I'm not sure if he was still ready to be an OC on some levels. When you bring in somebody like that and you invest that kind of money in that player, you need to set that player up for success as much as possible. You need to run an offense that fits his skill set, that plays to his strengths. Year 1 was just god-awful. And Russell Wilson, it didn't help. He didn't play well. I think he struggled with his confidence. He struggled trying to run Hackett's offense. That was just a mess.
Well, let's not forget, Mo, that year 1 offense was built for Aaron Rodgers. That's why Nat Hackett was there in the first place.
Aaron Rodgers, right? It starts with Aaron Rodgers, right? And then you come in with Sean Payton, and you already know from the gate, this isn't my guy, right? I'm your new head coach. I'm a head coach that has clout. I've got a resume. This is an audition, and we knew that's what it was. And I thought, because Sean Payton wanted to run this vanilla offense and wanted Russ not to lose games, I would argue that he played that system when he put him in almost to perfection. Dink and dunk, bubble screens, never throwing it downfield. Look, the only time or every time there was an explosive play offensively from Denver down the field, it was the rare time that Russ didn't do what he was supposed to do, and it was an off-schedule play, and it usually always ended up with a catch by Cortland Sutherland, who by far is their best wide receiver. Maybe their only consistent wide receiver. So I thought Russell Wilson gave in to what Sean Payton wanted him to do. I think Russell Wilson went out of his way to try to make it work because he knew it was an audition. And look, they got off to a rocky start, terrible start. And to respond in the way they did as a team, especially coming off of the game where Miami handed them 73, like you almost don't come back. I don't know. I'm amazed that they came back, put themselves in the hunt as a team, and just came up short on a couple of games. They did. There was a couple of games that I thought they could have won. They had some turnovers. Russ didn't play well. The defense didn't really play as well. And next thing you know, they're out of the picture. But Russell Wilson isn't starting today, not because he hasn't played well enough. He's not starting today because he wouldn't give up some money. He's not starting today because when they came to him in October, I want people to realize that in October, this is December, they had just beaten the Chiefs, and they said, you know what, man? Honestly, you're not really quite worth all that we paid you, and we need you to renegotiate some stuff in your with your injury clauses and things of that nature. And I don't blame Russ. I'm like, I signed this deal in good confidence. Everybody read it. I didn't trick anybody. And now you guys want money back. And mind you could have asked for money back in year one when I was god awful. But I've actually done everything you people wanted of me in year two, and you want money back. No, I'm not giving you no money back. And he's not the bad guy for saying no, but not shockingly, they threatened him, and then they said, well, we still have a chance to make the playoffs. And then once they knew they were eliminated, it became official. And Sean Payton comes out with, we need a spark. It's disingenuous, and anybody with common sense knows the situation. He was not his guy from the gate. And I think the money was always there, right? Because we can all agree, had they gotten Russell Wilson from 5 years ago, maybe he would have lived up to that money. This current version of Russell Wilson, in my opinion, is a good enough quarterback to win football games, but no longer an elite quarterback. We can agree on that. And what's interesting is in a league where teams are starved for quarterbacks, he'll be a starting quarterback somewhere else. He will. He'll get another shot. He's not done. I think he does have still got some good football in him. But I'm just looking at how the Broncos handled this. It's a horrible look. It's a horrible PR look. I mean, you can spin it how you want to spin it. I've heard Broncos come on. I've listened to former Broncos. I'm sure you heard this guy before, Mark Schlereth, Stink, who I actually agree with 99% of the time. But he came on and he was like, well, Russell doesn't throw people open anymore and things of that nature. And I'm like, that never was a strength of his. He's not Aaron Rodgers. He's not Tom Brady. He's not a Joe Burrow. He does not throw people over. He's always been a sight thrower his entire career. He sees you open, he throws the ball. That's who he's been. But just for the record, he's not a rarity in this. Derek Carr is a sight thrower. There are quite a few guys like that in this league. Very few people can throw the ball before you come out of your break, and when you turn, it's in your face. Those are the truly gifted ones. Russell's a special player, but what made him special, Chris, was what he did when the play broke down, not when everything went like it was supposed to. That's a fact. So I got no problem with if the Broncos want to bench the man, because we all know he's not part of their future, right? Like to me, this is them saying, like, you don't want to give up the money. This is what we're going to, you know what I mean? Like that's what it comes down to. And that's okay. That's okay. If they feel like this is a win, I'm going to be interested to see what happens when they draft this young quarterback who's unproven, throw him into this system, and they expect to go 10-6 or better. next year? Because my guess is they won't be as good as they are this year.
And one more time, looking at his numbers, like I said, it was 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Those 26 touchdowns, well, the leader in the league is Dak Prescott with 30. So he's only 4 off of the league lead right now in touchdown passes. 66.4% completion percentage. My bad. I cut him short by a few points there. 66.4. So you want your franchise quarterback to be over 65. That's usually the threshold. 65% completion percentage is what you're looking for. He's at 66.4. Oh, and by the way, Mo, we said that he wasn't, Seattle Russ. 4 fourth quarter comebacks this season, 4 game-winning drives this season, tied for the league lead in both. And and apparently he's the issue. He is the issue. And I get it. You didn't get what you paid for. You didn't get Seattle Russ. But we all knew that. We all knew coming into that deal, hey, they paid for Seattle Russ. Seattle Russ was like 2 years ago. Seattle Russ wasn't even playing in Seattle anymore. So we all knew it was a bad deal when they made the deal. But then we saw how Russ was playing this year, and I think we all assumed, okay, you're getting a lot out of Russ. And then for it to end this way, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. Besides, it's icky. It makes me feel a little icky. But I'll tell you this: we're gonna bring somebody on the show right now, and I'm not gonna call him a Russell Wilson hater.
Oh, it must be JG.
I don't think JG hates on anyone. But
it must be JG.
We know that Russell Wilson is not, the highest on JG's list of quarterbacks. So I'd love to hear his opinion of how things kind of wrapped up in Denver, or about to wrap up in Denver with Russell Wilson. Let's welcome JG to the show. JG, how are you this morning, sir?
What's up, JG?
Hey, morning, guys. How you guys doing?
Doing well.
JG, we know that you are not the leader of the Russell Wilson fan club. We've talked about that before on the show. Talk to us a little bit from your perspective, because we know that you're very pro player when it comes to deals and fairness and teams being transparent. How are you feeling this morning, seeing how the Russell Wilson saga has shaken out and how it appears to be ending in March with him being cut by the Broncos?
Well, let me throw this before I answer that part. As far as I'm being a Saints fan and having to see Sean Payton up close in New Orleans for so many years, anybody think that he told the front office in Denver? And again, this is something that he has. Sean can be shady at times and how he handles himself with the front with certain situations. Anybody think that he told the Denver front office, "Yeah, hey, Russ is my guy. I'm excited to work with him. He's the next Drew Brees for me."
No.
But in the back of his mind, he knew never wanted to work with him. How else to get the job, knowing that they just paid him the year before. They paid Russell Wilson, but knowing in the back of his mind, he goes, "Yeah, he's not my guy, but I'll tell you he is, so I can get that job." Sean is that kind of guy. So I kind of have a feeling that's what this transpired, and then influenced the front office as the season went on and goes, "Hey, he's not my guy. We're not going to win with him. We're not going to do this. We've got to get out of this contract. We've got to find a way to get out." And then just Sean influenced the front office more and more and more throughout the season. So that again, knowing how he's worked in New Orleans, it wouldn't surprise me if that is how things portrayed from the beginning to where we are today with it. In regards to the contract, the teams can. I mean, we deal with this in baseball. We hear it again in regards of financials and really in baseball wise, service time, where manipulation of service time, to make sure that teams in Major League Baseball get an extra year of players' contracts before they hit free agency. The unfortunate part for this situation is it's allowed in the CBA. They can bench him. They can say, "Hey, we're not. This is not the first time we've heard this in the NFL, where a team is looking at the contract and saying there's an injury clause in the contract. We're going to bench you, or we're just or whatnot, to make sure that we don't have to pay that guarantee if you were to get hurt." Now, Russ can do what he did. No, I'm not gonna waive it. I'm not gonna defer why would I change? That saves me. Why would I defer that part of the contract? It's exactly the reason why I wanted it in there. And if they're choosing to bench him, Okay, you still got to pay me. You still got to pay me right now. Even though he's not going to play, they're still paying Russell Wilson these next 2 weeks. So, hey, that's your choice. And you're the one, and Russell right now is looking like the knight in shining armor in this situation, fighting back and saying, I'm not deferring this. I'm not going to help you guys out. If you're going to talk about benching me, if you've been talking about benching me for weeks, why would I help you guys? So it's very bad business the Broncos are doing and how they've handled the situation. And it's really the influence of Sean Payton basically saying, you're not my guy. And I've been vocalizing it. And we talked about it in our group, the game, I can't remember which game it was, where he went and tore up Russell Wilson on the sideline. That is Sean. And I remember there was a few of us talking about, man, like, why is he going at him? Because he is making it known. Sean is very tactical. He's very strategic in how he handles not just on-field strategy, his opponents, but how he handles his team. And he is making it known to the world, you were not my guy. And he thinks that's a great thing to do because it shows control. Sean has learned from Bill Parcells on control of a team. The head coach has to have that power. And if he doesn't have that power, you have what you had with Nathaniel Hackett. And it's a spiral downhill very quick. He is establishing control, saying, this is my team. You came in and told, basically, remember the beginning of the saga, Russell Wilson and Sean Payton. Sean Payton gets hired and goes, hey, your entourage, gone from the office. Your personal quarterback coach, gone from the office. Your own little office you had, gone. So he made it known to everybody, this is not your team, Russ. This is my team, and I'm going to show you the door here very quick. So I'm not surprised that this has transpired, and I'm not surprised that the Denver Broncos look to try to take that clause, because that's a clause that protects players, and a lot of teams do it, and then a lot of teams look to try to get rid of it because they know, oh my God, that $37 million for Russell's injury guarantee. What are we thinking? And now we have to find a way to make sure that we don't have to pay that when it's all said and done. And they're going to get hit with a huge cap hit here pretty soon. Even though if they're going to wait till a June 1st post cut, it's still going to be $85 million just broken up in the next 2 years, and they're going to have to pay for that. So it's an unfortunate business, but it's part of the business.
JG, does he have another stop left in him? So as much as Russ is looking favorable now, he's looking favorable from the aspect of the business side. Denver was kind of shady business-wise. Denver was kind of shady contract-wise. That's completely different than can Russ lead a new team to victories on the football field. Yes, his numbers were middle of the pack. 26 touchdowns, I think, is good for 4th or 5th in the league right now. We can look at the offense they ran and say, it wasn't that, creative. But we don't know what practice looked like. We don't know, because even in that offense, there were some throws that Russ wasn't making, right? There were some throws that Russ was missing in what we think as fans is a very boring, generic-looking offense. You can argue that his receivers were injured. You can make a bunch of excuses. But when you go into the offseason and teams are looking at their quarterback situation and they're trying to figure out what they want to do for next season, is there a team out there that you think would look at Russell Wilson and be like, for a year or two, yeah, we're not going to pay him what he was making in Seattle. We're definitely not going to pay him what he was making in Denver. But for a year or two, as we move to whatever our actual future plan is, could Russ be a stopgap option?
Yeah, he can be a stopgap option. Russ has to have everything in line for him. We're actually, I'll say this, and you're right. I'm not a big advocate for Russell Wilson. I've never been high on him, and throughout his career, I'll be honest, and I'm going to get killed probably this in the group here in a little bit, and on the comment section. I've always thought Russell Wilson was a little overrated. Now, is he a good quarterback? Yes, he is a good quarterback. Is he someone that you can hand the keys to a franchise to go lead you to a Super Bowl? No. He needs everything in line for that to happen. And what we've seen in the last days of Seattle, what we've seen so far in 2 years in Denver is if he doesn't have that, it's not good. The efficiency, he's got good stats. This has never been an argument about stats, especially in today's era. Every quarterback's got good stats. it's a matter of your efficiency on how you play to lead your team when it matters most, and that's something that he has been struggling lately on. So could he again? Is his career over? No, I won't say his career is over. A team's going to take him and give him a chance to resurrect his career and give him. I won't say 1 year. He's going to get at least 2 years. He'll get 2 years. He'll get another 2 years at least to figure it out and turn it around, and then be able to hopefully be a quarterback that can help a team, not lead a team, but help a team to playoffs and Super Bowl aspirations. But he has to have everything in line. And this is something also, and I'll use this for Russell Wilson's argument. We're seeing a lot of teams that have that now. Even Pat Mahomes has to have a lot in his favor to be a winning quarterback. And we're talking about the Chiefs right now, vulnerable as can be, losing to the Raiders on Christmas, something that we should never have seen in 2023 for sure. But we saw that, and so right now, even the great Pat Mahomes is not having everything in his favor, and he's losing games. Josh Allen at times has not had everything in his favor, and he loses games. Tua Tagovailoa, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson at times. Brock Purdy. I know it's depending on the argument of Brock Purdy being in the same conversation as those quarterbacks that I just listed. That's a whole different argument. But quarterbacks have to have everything in line for them to be winning. So that's an argument for Russell Wilson right now, is that if you have the coach that looks at Russell Wilson and says, you can be my guy. Okay. Because that's what he had with Seattle with Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll said, you're my guy. And we saw what happened for a long time with everything, with a great defense and a great running back with great weapons around him. He flourished. Now, that's a tall task, especially in what we're seeing today, that a lot of teams don't have all the check marks boxed off for. But if you have parts of that, I think he can be a success at the next stop for at least 2 years. But that's the thing. He's got to make sure he has a team that is willing to take that chance.
JG,
I think that's a good point. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, all you, Mo.
I was just going to say I want to piggyback on what JG said. I agree with his assessment that put Russ in a situation when they do have some talented wide receivers. They have a good running back. They don't have to have a great running back and a good offensive line, and he will be a perfect bridge quarterback. The team that he goes to, let's say if it were Washington, they can draft a rookie and he can sit for a year or two while Russ is the bridge quarterback. Or if it's the Patriots and they want to go that route as a bridge quarterback, I think Russ can be really good as a bridge quarterback. Look, we're talking about the season that he had this year. Not a great running game at all. One good receiver. You heard what Steve Smith said. The other guy's like third tier or something like that. And he played like it. So with limited weapons, he had a decent season, even in a structured offense that didn't necessarily fit his skill set. So put him in an offense that fits his skill set with weapons, I think he'll be better than a bridge quarterback.
I'll throw a team out there for you real quick and just hear me out on this, because I think that's something that you can think. They're almost in a similar situation right now as the Broncos and what they're going to have to figure out with their high-paid quarterback. What about the New York Giants? New York Giants have a running back, Saquon Barkley. Now, do they have the wide receivers? No, they don't. But you can draft a receiver and you can go sign a receiver. You have a pretty decent receiver class. I'm looking at it right now. Mike Evans is a free agent this offseason. You may have to overpay to go get him, which the Giants are not afraid to go spend money on if they need to do that. But you can go get Mike Evans and draft a quarterback. You can get Calvin Ridley, who's a free agent this year. You can go get T. Higgins, put T. Higgins with Brian Daboll and draft a receiver as well. You might have it. That's an upgrade in what you have in the weapons. You have a decent tight end. When he's healthy, he's a good tight end. And Darren Waller, you need an offensive line a little bit more. I think that's something that's going to be more focused. But again, that's not a bad place with Brian Daboll, who's a good offensive-minded coach. Giants could be a team that would be interested. I think would be an option for Russ, which we already know. They like the big city with his wife Sierra wants to be in the big city, so of course make the wife happy, go to New York and be with the Giants, and then you have
very quarterback friendly.
We talk about how the big city would now have Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson both in the same city, Why not? I mean, I think the NFL would enjoy that.
No, I like that a lot. Speaking of the big city, let's switch gears a little bit to Major League Baseball. JG, the Mets, it's pretty expensive apparently to finish in 4th place. The Mets are going to have to tally up on the luxury tax bill to the tune of almost $101 million, more than double the previous high on the luxury tax bill that was set by the Dodgers, which was, I think, was just a shade under $47 million. JG, that's a hefty penny to pay for being a pretty bad team the season prior. We know that the owner of the Mets does not like bad business, and I feel like when this check is cut, it's going to hurt him a little bit internally, because that is a lot of money to pay for a 4th place team.
I'm trying not to smile too hard. I enjoy hearing that with the Mets, though. Oh my goodness, yeah. I mean, that's part of the reason why they are they're having to do the rebuild. That's part of it, is they knew they were going to get hit with this huge luxury tax again, and you can't, especially if you're not a first place team, or if you're not a top of Major League Baseball team, you can't sustain that. You have to find a way to get cheaper. You have to find a way to get younger. You have to find a way to rebuild yourself, and that's what they're doing right now. Again, I think they should. There's if it was up to me, there'd be a couple more moves I'd have to make, because again, that $100 million luxury tax, that's a huge chunk of what's going to take out of your budget and payroll that you're gonna have to. It's going to take, at least, even for an owner like Steve Cohen, it's going to take some time to recoup. And so that's why I was expecting them to make more moves. And Pete Alonso being one. Lindor wasn't going to be moved, and probably until, if they really do commit to the rebuild, probably in 2025 is when they would probably remove him. But again, you have to have at least one star on your team to make sure that the fans still come out and watch in New York. But at this point, I'm kind of surprised. There's still more moves that need to be made. They haven't done it, so I'm not exactly sure sure the direction right now, especially because you're still in the same division with the Braves and Phillies, and they're getting stronger. The Braves are getting another year older, when they're still one of the youngest teams in baseball, and they're getting more experience. The Phillies, back-to-back years of knocking off the Braves in the postseason and getting themselves at least to the NLCS. You're not competing with them. Oh, by the way, the Miami Marlins are actually going to be pretty good in 2024 as well. So what direction are you taking if you're the Mets right now, where you committed to a rebuild, you made moves to do a rebuild, but you didn't do a full rebuild? So for Mets fans, you're basically at the moment in purgatory for a while, where it got to the point where you're pursuing. This shows how far the Mets have fallen right now. You had a meeting scheduled with Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and he said no, thank you. He said no, thank you. I'll go to a second meeting with the Yankees, and then I'm going to go to the Dodgers, but I'm not going to the Mets. Sorry, no, thank you. That shows that you're not where you thought you were. So a full rebuild is exactly what they needed to do, and they didn't do that. So they're going to continue being a 4th place team. I don't think they're going to be better than the Marlins. I obviously don't think they're going to be better than the Braves and Phillies. Can they even be a last place team? Because the Nationals were on their heels at one point, and the Nationals they're getting a little bit more experience with some of the young guys they have. We could talk about the New York Mets being a last place team in this division, and I would not be shocked by it.
Speaking of Yamamoto, he does sign his deal with the Dodgers, 12 years, $325 million. But JG, don't worry. He did not go to the Dodgers because of Shohei Ohtani. He went to the Dodgers, according to him, because they showed they were ready to win. JG, aren't those one in the same?
And if people believe that, I got a boat in Israel to sell you as well. So, no, we all know Ohtani was an influence for Yamamoto to go to the Dodgers, because the money was. I mean, again, the Yankees. I know the Yankees didn't match the offer. What the Dodgers were offering was a little bit less. It was $300 million, not $325 million. That's still a good chunk of change. Giants were in on Yamamoto as well. They actually, if I remember correctly, the Giants were part of the 3 teams that were the finalists, and they did match the Dodgers. So
no one wants the Giants' money. The Giants are out there matching deals left and right.
Like I said, the San Francisco Giants, the Dallas Mavericks in Major League Baseball. I mean, remember, for almost a decade, Mark Cuban was going after superstar after superstar and didn't get a single one until a old Darren Williams signed with them. I mean, they're the Dallas Mavericks in Major League Baseball, where they pursue every big name and they're falling flat on it. That's amazing. No, okay. So yeah, the Dodgers are a winning organization, but I mean, so are Braves have been a winning organization right now. Mariners are right on the cusp of being that lately, and they're going to be there. Rangers just won the World Series. I mean, so there's other teams that you can sit there and say, oh, they're winning organizations. Yankees, you can go and be a Yankee star and help turn around that franchise, which I get. And we talked about this in the group. The Yankees weren't going to pay Yamamoto more than Garrett Cole, which I'll say this: that's wrong business. Walker Buehler is the ace of the Dodgers. He's making more money. Yamamoto's making more money than Walker Buehler now. Right at the moment, right now, Walker Buehler is still the ace of this team. He's healthy. He's going to be ready to go in 2024. He is the ace of this team, and Yamamoto's making more money than him. If you're worried about feelings, you're in the wrong business in sports. And then you, Chris, can attest that George Steinbrenner in his day didn't give a damn if your feelings were hurt or not. Money is money.
If Walker is calling himself the ace, good for him, because that won't be the case in a year.
But I'm saying, but what's the goal, though? That's the thing about it. What's the goal? The goal is to win a championship. So if Yamamoto is that player that can help your rotation, which, my goodness, talk about the New York Yankees needing a lot of help in their rotation, and you're worried about Garrett Cole's feelings as the ace and being paid more, then winning is not a priority in the Yankees. And I'm sorry to tell you that, Chris. If that's the case, they're worried about the feelings of it. Dodgers looked at Buehler and say, look, yeah, you're our number one, but Yamamoto is going to help us with the rotation, which, guess what? We didn't have you. We didn't have Johnson. We didn't have Kershaw. Kershaw wasn't healthy-ish. He was healthy-ish. We didn't have anybody in 2023 to help us win. Guess what? We need arms. So we're going to go get Glass now. We're going to get Yamamoto. We're going to pay Yamamoto more than you, Buehler, even though you're our number one, because this is the rotation that's going to help us win a World Series, and you have to deal with it. I bet you Walker Buehler goes, done, cool, because that's what the end game is, World Series.
What if they don't win one this upcoming season? So obviously the goal is you got these guys for a decade. If you win 3 or 4, you're feeling good about yourself. If you're averaging 1 every 2 years, this was probably a success overall. But I think that until they get the first one, that's where the focus is going to be, is it not? So if they don't win it this upcoming season, what does that do for the team heading into year 2? With all, you know what I mean? Like, at what point does the pressure build if they don't win one right away? They win one this year, they're good. They did exactly what they set out to do. Everyone's like, they are that team. Even if they don't win it year 2, it doesn't matter. They won it year 1. They're in that conversation moving forward. If they don't win it year 1, how much pressure is on them year 2, in your opinion? Because we got to get it done. We can't go 2 or 3 years and not win one.
So their World Series, I'm going to put it this way. And it's kind of difficult to really say this because you have a 10-year and a 12-year contract with both Ohtani and Yamamoto. Their window of championship has to be within 3 years. The first 3 years, they have to at least win one. Freddie Freeman's 34 years old right now. So in the next 3 years, he'll be 37. Mookie Betts is 31 years old right now. The next 3 years, he'll be 34. And so he'll be 34 years old at that point. So your window of opportunity with the stars that you have that you brought in before Ohtani and before Yamamoto, they're getting on the back end right now, which I say that baseball is the sport where you can be effective and still a high player at 35, 36, 37 years old. But if you look at it, Freddie Freeman does have injury history, even when he was in his 20s. Mookie Betts, who has been relatively healthy throughout his career, age does. Again, everybody ages differently. So we don't know what the health of Mookie Betts is going to be in the next 3 years in that time frame as well. Is Freddie Freeman going to stay healthy? What he's been doing throughout his career over the last 2 years in LA over the next 3-year time frame. But because again he's going to be a little bit older. He'll be 37 at that point when at the end of the 3-year stretch right now. That window you're going to have to, because again they're set up to where they need to. They can go bring in other players and other superstars to pair off with Ohtani and Yamamoto when it's all said and done. But that is the window I've seen. If they don't win a title within the 3-year stretch, so if they don't win one this year, yeah, the pressure is going to be a lot higher. If they don't win one in 2025, 2026 is going to be absolutely brutal. That it's got to be World Series or bust in 2020. If they don't win one in the next 2 years, that third year in 2026, it is World Series or bust. And at that point, you can consider this a failure. Even if they win one in 5 years, the stretch where you had Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman and still in their relative prime, that's where you have to make sure this window you win at least one. Obviously, yes, multiple success, great success. Andrew Friedman should get a key to the city of LA and be able to do and just be a statue of him for making this work. But if they don't win one in the first 3 years, you can call this a failure for the Dodgers because of what they won. They promised Ohtani. Let's just put it this way too. What if they don't make it to the World Series the next 3 years? What if they lose in the NLCS and the for 3? Let's just say they get to the NLCS in 3 straight years, and they don't make it to the World Series. That's a huge failure. That's a huge failure. So there's a lot of. Again, pressure's on. The pressure is absolutely on for the Dodgers starting now. But if they don't, their window of opportunity to win is in the first 3 years of this 10-year era that they're going to be in Dodger baseball. And if they don't win a World Series in these first 3 years, this is a failure. And there's going to be some questions that need to be asked on what they need to do, and they're going to be scrambling to try to add more. And you talk about luxury tax. We talk about luxury tax with the Mets. That number is going to rise even more as they continue to try to make sure they get something going for Ohtani, because they promised. That was the big thing. We're a winning organization. You're going to compete for a World Series with us. We promised you that. That was their selling point. So they don't make it or they don't win one in the first 3 years, you got to look at it as a failure.
And let's not forget, Mo and JG, Ohtani has the clause. They need to make sure that they are trying. I forget how it's worded, but they have to be making the moves to make themselves in the position to be a winning team. So if they keep getting close, and maybe Ohtani is like, well, why didn't we go out and get this person this offseason? Why didn't we go out and get that person? We went to the NLCS 2 out of 3 years. We could have got a better 5th person in our rotation. If those things start bubbling up and Ohtani is like, well, are we ever going to win a title here? You don't want that to happen, JG.
Yeah, yeah. And so there's, again, you talk about pressure not just on the players, but on Andrew Friedman to make sure that this works. And and he has power right now. I'll say this: Friedman has a lot of power at his disposal because that opt-out clause that Ohtani has in his contract for it. But again, let's say in 5 years, halfway through the contract, Ohtani becomes 34 years old, and they don't win a World Series in that time frame. Is a discussion need to be made about a change at general manager because you didn't do what you were supposed to do. You're supposed to win, and you didn't do that. So yeah, there's a lot of throughout the organization. There's pressure, and there's a lot of pressure on Andrew Friedman to make sure that this works. That he brings a title to LA, especially again. I say this. Yeah, they won a World Series in 2020. They got robbed of the World Series in the Astros cheating scandal as well. But the 2021, and I know Lakers fans view that the 2020 title differently than I'll say this. And it's my own personal opinion. Lakers fans view their title differently than the Dodgers fans because that World Series shortened season. It was kind of a little bit of a mess, and then you had the Rays actually gift wrap that World Series to the Dodgers by taking out Snell early in the game, which they were the Dodgers were not the better team, and they stole that World Series away. And I've talked to some Dodgers fans. there's a little bit of that in their head, like that 2020 World Series was good. It wasn't great. So validation for Dodgers fans is to win a World Series, not just again, but win one at home in LA in front of that fans, to make sure that they get that validation of what they got in 2020 was real. So that, so that's in the back of mind of Dodgers fans, and that's why the pressure even more to do what they're doing has to provide a World Series title in LA. Not in 3 years. It has to be done in the first 3 years of this era that they're in now.
JG, always a pleasure having you here. We haven't seen you in a little bit, so we missed you here on the morning show.
Yeah, man. Oh my goodness. Yeah, the travel and holidays and everything's just been crazy, and doing some work down here. I'm in Louisiana, visiting my family, so it's been all over the place. So yeah, I miss you guys. Miss doing the show with y'all. Glad to be back with y'all today and getting back to normal with the schedule with you guys.
All right, JG. We'll see you next week, sir.
Appreciate you.
Thanks, guys.
Mo, just when you think you've seen everything in the NFL doesn't let you down, because this past weekend we had an NFL player decide 4 or 5 minutes before the coin toss that he wanted to be a captain for the game. And lo and behold, he wasn't named one of the 3 captains for the game that get to be a part of the coin toss. So instead of sitting there and being like, man, I wish I was named captain for the game because I grew up in Charlotte and this is my home. We're playing in front of my hometown fans. I wish coach would have gave me the nod. Instead of having that internal conversation, like I think 99% of NFL players in that situation would have, Jaire Alexander said, just going to make myself a captain. I'm just going to walk out there, name myself a 4th captain to this team, and I'm not just going to stand there, because if I'm out there, I might as well do something. So while I go out there, I'm also going to, call it. I'm going to call it, and I'm going to be I'm going to lead the show. That is the coin toss, Mo, which, by the way, instant captain. He almost did wrong, because for NFL fans who are not aware, the coin toss is a very important part of the pregame process. And there is specific language that you need to use when you are talking about the coin toss. Whether once the toss is decided and that you win it and they ask you what you want to do, if you don't use the correct terminology, it could kind of screw things up a little bit. Mo, he didn't know the correct terminology because he wasn't supposed to be out there.
Right. That's why you're not out there.
So what he almost did was he almost said that they just want to kick the ball, which, by the way, fun fact, if you go out there and you win the coin toss and you choose just to kick the ball, you don't get the ball in the second half. The other team has the option to decide if they want to receive the ball or defer it in the second half.
Right.
So lucky for him, apparently the officials out there realized he had no clue what he was doing. So they asked him, oh, you want to defer? And to which he basically responded, yeah, that's what I said. And why do I know this, Mel? Because that's exactly what he talked about post-game. Post-game, he was asked about this, and he verbatim just explained, well, the coach didn't know I was from Charlotte, and he should have had me out there, so I just went out there, and they were all looking at me kind of weird, and I said, yeah, I want the defense on the field, and they're like, oh, you mean defer? And he's like, yeah, that's what I meant. That's what I said. What the hell, Mo? What? By the way, he was suspended for a game, rightfully so. I don't know how that conversation went down. I don't know how that didn't look like a conversation with your 5-year-old. We told you not to take cookies from the cookie tree. Did you take cookies?
Right.
Well, then there has to be a consequence for Jaire. We told you just can't name yourself team captain.
I honestly think
what?
When that went down, I thought their coach should have reacted the way Sean Payton reacted with Russell Wilson on the sideline. That should have been, you should have seen all that pointing and yelling. Like that should have happened on that sideline. that you would just up and go, I think I'm going to make myself an instant captain. I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to call it. Yeah. Well, and for him to go in the post game and basically repeat all, he's basically saying, I am guilty. I made myself an instant captain.
Right.
Coach should have known I'm from this area. You had all week leading up to have a conversation with the coach and go, Coach, you do know I'm actually from this area, and it would mean so much to me if you could make me one. I'm just saying, a basic conversation like that. And the coach would have said, I understand that, and this is what we'll do. You can go out there, but you're not going to call it, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, it would have been that simple, and he made it into a thing. And rightfully so, like you said, he got suspended.
Maybe he thought, Mo, that was the process. Maybe he literally thought that whatever 3 guys wanted to walk out there, they were just captains. And he thought that was how it worked. Because, like, how do you do? You play in the league as long as he has. You have to know you just can't do that.
I think you're right. I think he went with the first come, first serve. Like, I think that's what it is. The first 3 guys to step up are captains.
So today it's me.
Today is me. It's from we're in my hometown anyway, so yeah. I'm gonna make myself that. Like, I thought it was interesting, and yet at the same time, I knew even while he was speaking in the post game, I was like, this guy's gonna get suspended or fined or something. And sure enough, there it is.
Mo, before we get out of here, I knew I was gonna rile up the Baltimore fans yesterday, and I did, and they are angry at me, and they had things to say. And you know what? Say what you want to say. I'm okay with that.
You didn't give him credit?
I'm not giving anyone credit. I'm gonna rebuttal. I'm gonna rebuttal the Baltimore fan base.
I love it
in the last few minutes today. So let me present this to you, Mo. Let's take a look at the last 5 NFL MVPs. All right, Patrick Mahomes, 41 touchdowns, 12 picks, 5,200 yards passing. Who did he beat out that year? Josh Allen, 35-14, 4,283. 2021, Aaron Rodgers, 37-4, over 4,000 yards. Who did he beat out? Brady, 43-12, over 5,000 yards that season. Aaron was just more efficient, 37-4 to 43-12. How about 2020? Aaron Rodgers again, 48-5, over 4,000 yards. He beat out Allen and Mahomes. They both went almost 40 touchdowns, over 4,000 apiece. 2019, Lamar Jackson. He was the last quarterback to win the MVP with less than 4,000 yards passing. 36-6, over 35 touchdowns. He also had 1,200 rushing yards that season and 7 rushing touchdowns. The year before Jackson was Mahomes, 50-12, 5,000 yards passing. Who did he beat out? Drew Brees, who just didn't have the numbers, 32-5, just under 4,000. How about the previous 5 before that? Brady, 32-8, over 4,000. Matt Ryan, 38-7, almost 5,000 yards. Cam Newton. Come on, Chris. Cam probably had numbers like Lamar, 35-10. He was under 4,000. He had 38-37, but he had 35 touchdown passes. Before that in 14 was Rodgers, 38-5, over 4,000. Before that was Manning, 55-10. Over 5,000 yards passing.
55-10.
55-10. 5,477 yards, 2013 with the Denver Broncos. Then you look at Lamar Jackson, 19-7 this year. Chris, stats don't matter. 3,357 yards. All right. Yes, he's rushed for 786. He has 5 rushing touchdowns. Oh, by the way, so does Josh Dobbs. He has 5 rushing touchdowns. Jalen Hurts has 15 rushing touchdowns. Josh Allen has 13 rushing touchdowns. He doesn't even lead in that stat. The only stat he leads quarterbacks in is rushing yards, 786. Justin Fields is right behind him at 585, and Jalen Hurts has 576. Let's look at the other quarterbacks who are in the running. Remember, Lamar, 19-7. 3,300 yards. He's going to finish the season with less than 4,000 yards passing. Mo, that's the key, because that seems to be one of the qualifiers. It seems to be you need 30-plus touchdowns and at least 4,000 yards to do it. He's not going to come close to that this season. Purdy right now, 29-11. He's already over 4,000. Dak, 30-7. he has 3,800. Goff, 27-10. He is almost 4,000. Tua, 26-10. He's over 4,000. Josh Allen, I don't think he should be in this conversation at 27-15. Too many picks, but he has almost 4,000 yards passing. Jordan Love, 27-11, Mo. Jordan Love has better stats than I would argue Lamar Jackson does right now. He has almost 3,600 yards passing. Baker Mayfield, 26-8, 3,598 yards passing. But Chris, what would Baltimore be without him? They would be not. Oh, really? You want to hear a fun stat, Mo? How many game-winning drives does Lamar Jackson have this season? I'm not even going to make you guess. The answer is 0. 0 game-winning drives. Purdy has 1, Dak has 2, Goff has 3, Tua has 2, Allen and Love have 3, and Mayfield has 2. This is also a season where you are seeing backup quarterbacks lead teams to potential division titles. Look what's happening in Indianapolis. Look what's happening in Minnesota. Look what's happening in Cleveland.
Flacco.
So you want to sit here and tell me stats don't matter? Well, of course stats don't matter if you're talking about Lamar Jackson, because I just named 8 quarterbacks who have way better stats than he does. So what matters? Oh, the impact he has on the team. If he wasn't a Raven, where would the Ravens be? I don't know. The Colts are tied for a division right now. I don't know. The Cleveland Browns are on their 4th quarterback. They're about to make the playoffs. I see plenty of teams in the NFL that have lost quarterbacks better than Lamar Jackson, because Joe Burrow is better than Lamar Jackson, and their teams are still in the playoff hunt. Their teams are still finding success. Oh, well, if he wasn't on the team wouldn't have this many wins. No game-winning drives. 6 games where he hasn't even passed for 200 yards. Sounds to me like he got a pretty damn good defense over there, Mo. Sounds to me like, I don't know. I'm just going to, if you look at the numbers, 19-7, 3,300 yards, 15th, by the way, in passing yards. He's behind all these quarterbacks in passing touchdowns. No game-winning drives. Top 3 defense in the league. Is Lamar a game manager? I don't know, Mo. When you got stats like that, compared to everything else that's happening, plus you got no 4th quarter comebacks, you're not leading game-winning drives, but you're also not putting up stats that are blowing people out. It's not like he's winning games by 30 points and he's passing for 300 every game and he's just dropping offense on you. I feel like that's where the game manager tag comes in. I hate to say it, Baltimore fans.
Be careful.
But that's where I am this morning, Mo. That's where I am. I digress.
I think you make strong cases. This is what I'll say. His best argument is really one of the worst arguments that most people hate. And I hate this in all sports. He's the best player on the team with the best record, right?
For now. What if they don't get the 1 seed? Because I'll give it to you. If they get the 1 seed, that might be enough to give it to him. What if they don't? What if Miami ends up with the 1 seed?
Which is very possible. I'm not arguing. What I don't understand is how quickly they elevated him. I guess because what I would say is you've seen the season play out, right? His numbers were what they were. Nobody was talking about them when they were 10-3. And so, you know what I'm trying to say?
2 weeks ago, he wasn't in the conversation.
Right. And so Dak falters, Tua falters, and suddenly out of nowhere, it's almost, you know what I mean? Out of nowhere, here's Lamar Jackson. And I'm and again, I'm a Lamar Jackson fan for the record, but I think he's having a statistically good season. I don't think he's having an MVP caliber season. Again, the argument he has is the record, and you make a great case, though. If they don't win out, then he doesn't have that argument either.
Which they might. They very well could win out. He could be the number 1 seed, at which case that is something that should help his argument.
It should.
But for people to say he's got it locked up 2 weeks to go, just because the Ravens defense roughed up Purdy a little bit, I don't know, Mo. It's crazy to me. It's crazy talk.
You know what's crazy talk? Nobody's talking about a defensive player being MVP. Some of these defensive players have been special. Starting with the guy on the Ravens, Smith. Raekwon Smith was outstanding. you can look at what's going on with Cleveland, and I don't want to knock Lamar Jackson. You made such a strong case against him. I feel like I don't want to pile on. All I'm going to say is he's having a good year, and I get the consideration. But to me, his strongest case, literally, I'm going to stick with it, is the record. That's it.
All right, Mo. I'm sure I'll hear about it. I'm sure I'm getting blown up
it
right now.
No, you killed it.
Hey, it's all right though. That's what we do around here on the morning show. All right, close us out, sir.
Appreciate everybody in the chat. Appreciate everybody that's listening to us live right now. Everybody that will check us out later. Check out all the great content that we have to offer to you on Sports Empire Network. Check out the Empire.
Mo, who you got tonight? You like Cleveland or you like the Jets in an upset?
I'm going to go with Cleveland.
I'm going to go with Cleveland too.
I'm going to ride with Cleveland. I think they can put up 17 points.
Hey, maybe after tonight, Joe Flacco will be the MVP conversation. Who knows?
Maybe.
Who knows? We don't know. It's
if somebody else falters, right? This is a really weird MVP year, right? Maybe has there ever been co-MVPs in the NFL?
I don't think so.
Wait a minute. I think there was one year. Was it Manning and Steve McNair? Am I wrong?
It was. No, you were absolutely right about that.
Right? Was it that or no?
Nope, you were absolutely right about that.
Then maybe this is the year something like that happens.
Maybe we'll see. All right, I'm going Flacco too. So nice easy picks there. Who knows? The Jets are probably going to win tonight. Zach Wilson's going to go off. Is he even starting? I don't even know. I have no idea what the New York Jets are doing. Make sure you are here, same time, same place with us tomorrow. We're breaking down all of the Week 17 games. We're going to talk about potentially a Joe Flacco MVP run. If he puts up great numbers tonight, who knows? All right. Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show here on Sports Empire Network, and we'll see all of you tomorrow morning.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboys fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready. I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn.